She felt the liquid on her skin before the sound of his scream caught up. Vivian reached for the light switch, her other hand resting on her 7-month pregnant belly. She was smiling. She was thinking about the champagne Julian had promised, about the nursery they still needed to finish, about the life growing inside her. Then the world caught fire. Julian, her voice came out as a gurgle, barely human. Julian, what did you do? He stood in the darkness of their kitchen, a bottle dangling from his right hand. His face showed no emotion, no regret, no horror at what he had just done. Just cold, calculating emptiness. You had to ask questions. His voice was flat, dead. You had to look at the accounts. You could not just leave it alone, Vivian. You had to ruin everything. She fell to her knees. The burning spread across her face like wildfire, consuming everything in its path. She could smell chemicals, industrial and acrid, and underneath that smell, something she would never forget, her own flesh dissolving. Julian, please. Hospital, please help me. He set down the bottle on the marble table they had picked out together in Florence. Then he walked past her, past his pregnant wife melting on the floor, toward the garage. She heard the door open. Close. His Mercedes starting. He left her there to die. But here's what Julian did not know. What he could not have predicted. What would eventually destroy him. Vivian did not die. And the plastic surgeon who rebuilt her face, the man who would spend months restoring what her husband had taken, he was about to discover something impossible. This is not just a story about survival. This is not just a story about justice. This is a story about a woman who lost everything and found something she never knew existed. Her face, her truth, her father. Stay with me, because what happens next will break your heart and put it back together again. Now, before we continue, I want to know where you are watching from. Drop your location in the comments right now. And if you are new here, welcome to this growing family. Hit that subscribe button. Tap the like button, and share this video with someone who needs to hear a story about strength and survival. Trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. Let me take you back to that October night, back to the moment when Vivian Reyes still believed in love. She had spent the afternoon at Jefferson Elementary, finishing report cards for her 2nd grade class. Her pregnant belly pressed against the desk as she wrote comments about each child. Miguel is showing wonderful progress in reading. Sophia needs to practice her multiplication tables. Little things that matter to parents, that mattered to her. At 6:30, her phone buzzed. A text from Julian. Champagne waiting. Heart emoji. Home soon ? She smiled at the screen. Julian had been distant lately. Stress about work. But this felt like the old days. The days when he would surprise her with flowers. When he would rub her swollen feet, without being asked. When he would press his ear against her belly and whisper secrets to their unborn daughter. She texted back. Leaving now. Love you. If she had known those would be the last normal words she ever typed. Would she have written something different? Would she have said goodbye to her students? Would she have called her best friend Tessa one more time? Would she have looked in the mirror and memorized her own face? She did none of those things. She just grabbed her purse, waddled her car, and drove home to her husband. The house was dark when she pulled into the driveway. Strange, she thought. Julian had said he was home. Maybe he was setting up a surprise. Maybe there were candles waiting inside. A romantic dinner. One last date night before the baby came. She unlocked the front door and stepped inside. Julian, her voice echoed in the empty foyer. I am home. No response. She reached for the light switch. And then the liquid hit her face. The pain was immediate and absolute. It erased thought. It erased identity. It erased everything except the primal, desperate need to survive. Vivian opened her mouth to scream, but the sound stuck in her throat. The burning intensified. Her face felt like it was melting off her skull, which she would later learn was exactly what was happening. Industrial-strength sodium hydroxide, purchased under a fake name. Research for maximum damage. Her husband had done his homework. She fell to her knees, her hands moving instinctively toward her face. Then she stopped. Some animal part of her brain knew not to touch it. Touching would spread the chemical. Touching would make it worse. Julian. The word came out strangled, unrecognizable. Julian, what did you do? He emerged from the shadows of the kitchen. The man she had married 5 years ago. The man who had cried at their wedding. The man who had kissed her belly every single night since she told him she was pregnant. That man was gone. In his place stood a stranger with empty eyes. You ruined everything. His voice was flat, emotionless, rehearsed. You had to ask questions. You had to look at the accounts. You could not just trust me. Vivian tried to process his words through the fog of agony. The accounts. 3 days ago, she had found strange charges on their credit card, gambling websites, thousands of dollars disappearing into digital casinos. When she asked Julian about it, he had brushed her off, said it was nothing, said she was being paranoid. She had believed him. She always believed him. Please. Her voice was barely a whisper now. Hospital. The baby. Julian looked at her belly. For one moment, something flickered in his eyes. Regret? Maybe. Or just annoyance that his plan was not working as cleanly as he had hoped. Then he set down the bottle and walked away. She heard the garage door open. His Mercedes starting. The sound of tires on pavement, growing fainter, disappearing into the October night. He was leaving her to die on the floor of their home, leaving her and their unborn daughter to dissolve in a pool of acid. But Vivian was not dead yet, and mothers do not give up. The baby kicked. Hard. A sharp jab against Vivian's ribs that cut through the pain like a knife through fog. 1 kick. 2 kicks. 3 kicks. Her daughter was still alive, still fighting, still depending on her mother to survive. Vivian started crawling. The front door was 7 feet away. It might as well have been 7 miles. Every movement sent fresh waves of agony across her face. She could feel her skin blistering, bubbling, sloughing off in places. Her vision blurred with tears that burned like fire in her wounds. But she kept crawling. 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet. Her daughter kicked again. 4, 5, 6, 7 times. A rhythm, a heartbeat, a reason to keep going. 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet. Vivian reached the door and grabbed the handle. She pulled herself upright, her legs shaking, her body screaming at her to stop, to give up, to let the darkness take her. She did not stop. She opened the door and stumbled onto the front porch. The October night air hit her face, and she screamed. The sound that came out of her was not human. It was pure animal agony, the kind of sound that makes neighbors wake up and know that something is terribly, terribly wrong. Lights flickered on across the street. A door opened. Mrs. Delacroix, the retired pediatrician from the house with blue shutters, appeared on her porch in a bathrobe. She took one look at Vivian, and her hand flew to her mouth. Oh, dear God. Oh, Vivian. Oh, no. Mrs. Delacroix was already dialing 911 as she ran across the street, her bare feet slapping against the cold pavement. Help! Vivian collapsed onto her porch steps, one hand still pressed against her belly. The baby kicked beneath her palm. Still alive. Still fighting. Please help my baby. Mrs. Delacroix knelt beside her, professional instincts taking over despite the horror in her eyes. Do not touch your face. Sweetheart, keep your hands down. Help is coming. She spoke into her phone with practiced calm. I need an ambulance at 4752 Oakwood Drive. Chemical burn. Severe facial trauma. Victim is conscious and 7 months pregnant. Yes, pregnant. Send everyone. Now, Vivian's vision was starting to fade. The edges of the world were going gray, then black, closing in like curtains at the end of a play. My baby. She whispered the words like a prayer. Please save my baby. Mrs. Delacroix grabbed her hand and squeezed. You stay with me, Vivian. You stay awake. Your baby needs you to fight. So Vivian fought. The ambulance arrived in what felt like hours, but was probably minutes. Red and blue lights painted the neighborhood in flashing color. Paramedics jumped out, their faces going professionally blank when they saw her. A young woman with steady hands knelt beside her. Ma'am, I am Paramedic Santos, and this is my partner Paramedic Webb. We're going to take care of you. Can you tell me your name? Vivian. Vivian Reyes. Her voice sounded strange, thick, distorted. I am 7 months pregnant. Is my baby okay? Paramedic Webb was already lifting her shirt, placing a fetal Doppler on her belly. The sound of rapid heartbeats filled the air. Thump, 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 thump. Fast but steady. Baby's heartbeat is strong. 148 beats per minute. That is perfect. Vivian started crying. The tears burned like acid in her wounds, but she could not stop them. Thank God. Thank God. Thank God. They loaded her onto a stretcher. Mrs. Delacroix climbed into the ambulance behind them. I am coming with her. The older woman's voice left no room for argument. She should not be alone. As the ambulance pulled away, Vivian kept one hand on her belly. The baby kicked steadily beneath her palm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. She counted each kick like a prayer. Each one meant her daughter was still fighting, still alive, still here. If her baby could fight, so could she. Paramedic Santos worked on her while keeping her talking, keeping her conscious. Vivian, what do you do for work? I teach second grade. Jefferson Elementary. That is wonderful. What is your favorite thing about teaching? Vivian knew what Santos was doing, keeping her mind engaged, keeping her present, keeping her from slipping into shock. She played along because the alternative was giving up, and she was not ready to give up the moment when something clicks. When a kid who has been struggling suddenly understands. Their whole face lights up, and you know you made a difference. Santos smiled, though her eyes remained worried. I bet you are a great teacher. I try. The ambulance pulled into the hospital bay. The doors flew open, and Vivian was wheeled into a trauma room that was already set up and waiting. Nurses swarmed around her. Doctors appeared in scrubs, everyone moving with practice efficiency. Then a tall man stepped forward. He had silver hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Something about his presence felt both authoritative and gentle, like a father and a surgeon all at once. When he looked at her face, his expression never changed, but she saw something flicker in his eyes. Concern, anger, determination. Hello, Vivian. His voice was calm and reassuring. I am Dr. Lawrence Holloway. I specialize in facial trauma reconstruction. I am going to be taking care of you tonight. My face. Vivian could barely form the words. How bad is it? Dr. Holloway did not lie to her. He did not sugarcoat. You have second and third degree chemical burns across approximately 65% of your facial surface area. Your eyes appear intact. Your airway is not compromised. These are both very good signs. My baby. An obstetrician appeared on her other side, already performing an ultrasound. I am Dr. Vasquez. Let us check on your little one. The baby appeared on the screen, moving normally, heartbeat strong. A perfect profile. 10 tiny fingers. 10 tiny toes. Your daughter looks perfect, Dr. Vasquez said. No signs of distress at all. Daughter. The word hit Vivian like a wave. It is a girl. You did not know. I wanted to be surprised. Dr. Holloway stepped back into her line of sight. His expression was gentle but serious. Vivian, I need to take you into surgery to remove the damaged tissue and begin the reconstruction process. This will be the first of several procedures. Do you understand? Will I ever look like myself again? Dr. Holloway paused. Then he said something that Vivian would remember for the rest of her life. You will look like someone who survived something terrible. And that person will be beautiful in ways that have nothing to do with appearances. But yes, we will rebuild your face. I promise you that. Vivian nodded. Okay, do it. As they wheeled her toward the operating room, she heard raised voices in the hallway. A woman's voice, urgent and scared. Where is she? Where is Vivian? Tessa Moreno burst into view. Her dark curly hair was wild, her eyes wide with panic. Vivian's best friend since college looked at her and went completely still. Oh my God. Tessa's face crumpled. Oh, Viv. Oh, no, no, no. Tessa. Vivian could barely speak through her damaged mouth. Julian. He left me. I know. Tessa was crying now, moving alongside the gurney. The police found his car abandoned near the airport. They are looking for him everywhere. Good. Vivian said. I hope they find him. I hope he rots in prison forever. He will. Tessa said fiercely, grabbing Vivian's hand. I promise you he will. As they passed through the doors to the surgical wing, Vivian caught a glimpse of her reflection in a metal cabinet door. The woman looking back was not her. could not be her. This woman had a face swollen beyond recognition, red and blistering and monstrous. She looked away quickly, but she knew the truth. That was her now. That was what Julian had made her. The baby kicked 5 times in quick succession. Vivian closed her eyes as they transferred her to the operating table. She focused on those kicks, on that heartbeat, on the daughter she had not known she was carrying until 20 minutes ago. "I am still here," she whispered, more to herself than anyone. "Mama is still here, baby girl." Dr. Holloway appeared above her, masked and ready. "Count backward from 10 for me, Vivian. 10, 9, 8, my baby. 7, 6, Julian. 5, 4, still alive. 3, 2, darkness." But what Dr. Holloway did not know yet, what he could not possibly suspect, would change both of their lives forever. Because as he examined the burns more closely under the bright lights of the operating room, moving methodically from her forehead to her cheeks to her jawline, he noticed something behind her right ear, an area untouched by the acid, a small birthmark shaped like a crescent moon with a tiny star beside it. His hand stilled, his breath caught. He had seen that birthmark before. 24 years ago, on a 5-year-old girl who had called him daddy. A little girl who used to run into his arms when he came home from work. A little girl who had disappeared one morning and never come back. Isabella. His daughter's name echoed to his mind like a church bell tolling in an empty cathedral. Dr. Holloway. His surgical nurse, Patricia, was looking at him with concern. "Are you all right?" "Fine." The word came out hoarse. "I am fine. Let us continue." He forced his hands to steady. He forced his mind to focus on the surgery, on the tissue damage, on the reconstruction that would need to happen over the coming months. But even as he worked, even as he removed damaged tissue and preserved what could be saved, his eyes kept drifting to that birthmark. It was impossible. It had to be coincidence. Thousands of people had crescent-shaped birthmarks, but he could not shake the feeling. The shape was identical. The placement was exact. And this woman, this Vivian Reyes, she was the right age. 29 years old. Isabella would be 29. He forced himself to finish the surgery. 8 hours of meticulous work, removing dead tissue, mapping out the reconstruction, ensuring his patient would survive and eventually heal. When it was over, he found himself in his office at 3 a.m, pulling out his phone, opening a locked folder he had not accessed in months. The photo showed a little girl, maybe 5 years old, with dark curly hair and a brilliant smile. She wore a yellow sundress with flowers on it and held a stuffed rabbit she had named Mr. Whiskers. She was laughing at something off camera, caught in a moment of pure childhood joy. And behind her right ear, barely visible in the sunlight, was a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon with a tiny star beside it. Dr. Lawrence Holloway stared at that photo for a very long time. Then he made a decision. Tomorrow, when Vivian woke up, he would start asking questions. Because if there was even a chance, even the smallest possibility, that this woman was his Isabella, he had to know. 24 years of searching. 24 years of grief. 24 years of keeping his daughter's room exactly the same, waiting for a homecoming that never came. Maybe, just maybe, his wait was finally over. Over the next several days, Vivian drifted in and out of consciousness. The medications kept her foggy, but certain things pierced through. The beeping of monitors, the sound of nurses checking on her, the constant, reassuring kicks of her daughter, who seemed determined to remind her mother that they were both still alive. Tessa came every day. She sat beside Vivian's bed and talked about everything and nothing. Work gossip, new restaurants, the latest episode of whatever show they'd been watching together. Normal things, ordinary things, a lifeline to a world that still existed outside this hospital room. She also brought news. They still have not found Julian, Tessa said on the 3rd day, but the detectives are getting closer. They trace his car to the airport, but he never got on a plane. They think he is hiding somewhere local. Good. Let him hide. Vivian's voice was raspy, distorted by her injuries. Let him spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder. There is more. Tessa hesitated. The police searched your house. They found some things on Julian's laptop. What things? Tessa took a deep breath. He was gambling, Viv, online casinos, sports betting, cryptocurrency trading that went bad. He lost a lot of money. How much? $800,000. The number hit Vivian like a physical blow. 800,000. Their life savings. The college fund they had started for the baby. The retirement accounts she thought were secure. All gone. That is not everything. Tessa continued, her voice tight with anger. He took out a second mortgage on your house, forged your signature, and he maxed out credit cards in your name. Vivian closed her eyes. The pain in her face seemed to intensify, or maybe that was just her heart breaking all over again. So he stole everything. Yes. And then he tried to kill me for the insurance money. There was a $2 million life insurance policy, purchased 6 weeks ago. You were worth more to him dead than alive. Vivian laughed. It came out as a broken, bitter sound. I married a monster. You married a con man. Tessa corrected. He fooled everyone. His colleagues. His friends. His family. You are not stupid for trusting your husband. I feel stupid. Well, you are not. You are a victim. And you are a survivor. And when that bastard gets caught, we are going to make sure he spends the rest of his miserable life in prison. Detective Iris Langford arrived the next day. She was a tall woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a voice that suggested she had heard every excuse in the book and believed none of them. She sat beside Vivian's bed with a notebook and a barely concealed fury. Mrs. Reyes, I am Detective Langford. I am the lead investigator on your case. I know you are in pain, but I need to ask you some questions. Are you up for that? Yes, Vivian said. Whatever helps catch him. Tell me about the night of the attack. So Vivian told her. The text message. The dark house. The light switch. The liquid hitting her face before she even saw him move. Julian's flat, emotionless voice explaining why he was destroying her. He said I ruined everything. Vivian finished. He said I asked too many questions. You found the gambling charges on your credit card 3 days before the attack. Yes. I confronted him about it. He said it was nothing. He said I was being paranoid. Did you believe him? Vivian paused. I wanted to believe him. I was 7 months pregnant with his child. I wanted my husband to be the man I thought I married. I understand. Detective Langford wrote something in her notebook. There is something else you should know. We found evidence of an affair. The words hung in the air. An affair. His executive assistant. A woman named Priya Sharma. The relationship appears to have been going on for 2 years. 2 years. Vivian's voice came out hollow. We have been trying to have a baby for 3 years. I am sorry. Does she know what he did to me? She contacted us voluntarily. She is horrified. She says he told her you were controlling and unstable, that you threatened to hurt yourself if he ever left. She believed him. He lied to everyone. Yes, he did. Vivian stared at the ceiling. Her face burned beneath the bandages. Her heart burned beneath her ribs. Her whole life was a lie, and she had never even suspected. Find him, she said finally. Find him, and make sure he never does this to anyone else. We will. Detective Langford stood. I promise you that. Meanwhile, Dr. Holloway was conducting his own investigation. He told himself he was being irrational. He told himself the birthmark was a coincidence. He told himself that after 24 years, the odds of finding his daughter on his own operating table were astronomical. But he could not let it go. He pulled Vivian's intake records. Age 29. Born September 1995. No listed family. Emergency contact was Tessa Moreno, identified as a friend. No parents. No siblings. No one. Grew up in foster care. No records before age 5. No memory of her biological family. Found wandering alone near Billings, Montana in 1999. Lawrence's hands trembled as he read those words. Montana. Isabella had disappeared in Montana. His ex-wife had taken her during a psychotic episode and fled to Montana. 3 months later, his wife was found dead in a car accident on a rural highway. Isabella was not in the car. The police had searched everywhere. Foster systems, hospitals, morgues. A 5-year-old girl had simply vanished into thin air. But what if she had not vanished? What if she had been found wandering alone, traumatized, unable to remember her own name? What if she had been placed into the foster care system as a Jane Doe? What if she had grown up without ever knowing who she really was? Lawrence went to visit Vivian every day. At first, his visit seemed purely medical. He checked her wounds, adjusted her medications, explained the reconstruction process. But gradually, his questions went beyond her physical symptoms. Tell me about your childhood. Vivian, she looked at him with tired eyes. Why? I find that understanding a patient's history helps me provide better care. Do you have any family? No. I grew up in foster care. Never knew my biological parents. How old were you when you entered the system? I do not know exactly. I was found wandering alone when I was about 5. No memory of anything before that. Lawrence's heart was pounding. Where were you found? Montana, near Billings. Why do you ask? Just curious about your medical history. Foster care children often have incomplete records. She studied his face. You seem very interested in my background, Dr. Holloway. He forced a smile. Professional curiosity. Nothing more. But as he left her room that night, he knew he could not keep pretending. He had to know the truth, even if it meant reopening wounds that had never fully healed. The next morning, he returned to Vivian's room with a photograph. Vivian, I need to ask you something. It is going to sound strange, but please hear me out. She sat up straighter in her bed, wincing at the pain the movement caused. Okay, the birthmark behind your ear. The crescent moon with the tiny star. Have you always had it? Her hand moved unconsciously to the spot. As long as I can remember. Why? Lawrence's hands were shaking as he pulled out his phone. He scrolled to the locked folder, to the photo he had looked at 10,000 times over the past 24 years. Then he held the screen out to her. Vivian looked at the image. A little girl in a yellow sundress, maybe 5 years old, holding a stuffed rabbit and laughing at something off camera. Behind her right ear, barely visible in the sunlight, was a birthmark shaped like a crescent moon with a tiny star beside it. Who is this? Lawrence's voice cracked. This is my daughter, Isabella. She disappeared 24 years ago. Vivian's eyes widened. Her mother, my ex-wife, suffered from postpartum psychosis. She became convinced that people were trying to hurt Isabella. One morning, she took her and vanished. 3 months later, she was found dead in a car accident in Montana. Isabella was not in the car. Montana, Vivian whispered. The police think she left Isabella somewhere before the accident. Maybe with a stranger she trusted in her delusional state. Maybe at a church or fire station. Isabella was never found. Lawrence's eyes were filled with tears. She would be 29 years old now. She would have grown up in foster care. And she would have a birthmark behind her right ear shaped like a crescent moon with a tiny star beside it. Vivian stared at him. Then she stared at the photograph. Then back at him. You think I am her. You think I am your daughter. I think there's a possibility. And I need to know for sure. The room was silent except for the beeping of monitors and the sound of both of them breathing. Finally, Vivian spoke. How will we know for certain? DNA test. Paternity test. If you are Isabella, it will be definitive. And if I am not, then I have made a fool of myself. And I apologize for putting you through this on top of everything else you are dealing with. And if I am, Lawrence's voice broke completely. Then I have found my daughter after 24 years. Vivian looked at the photograph one more time. At the little girl who might be her. At the birthmark that was identical to her own. At the father who might have been searching for her while she bounced through foster homes, wondering why nobody wanted her. Okay, she said. Do the test. Are you sure? Why not? This week cannot possibly get any stranger. Lawrence smiled through his tears. It was the first time Vivian had seen him smile. I will arrange it this afternoon. After he left, Tessa turned to Vivian with wide eyes. What if it is true? She whispered. Then I had a father this whole time. A father who never stopped looking for me. A father who found you when you needed him most. Or maybe it is just a weird coincidence, and I am getting my hopes up for nothing. Vivian closed her eyes. I cannot think about this right now. I have too much else to deal with. But she could not stop thinking about it. That night, alone in her hospital room, she stared at the ceiling and tried to remember anything from before age 5. There were fragments: a woman singing, the smell of lavender, a stuffed rabbit with one floppy ear. But nothing concrete, nothing she could grasp. If she was Isabella Holloway, she had lost 24 years with her father, 24 years of family, 24 years of belonging, 24 years of having someone who was hers. If she was not Isabella Holloway, she was just a foster kid who had gotten unlucky twice. Once when her real family abandoned her, once when her husband tried to kill her. Either way, her old life was gone. She was starting over whether she wanted to or not. The baby kicked hard. "Hey, baby girl," Vivian whispered, placing her hand on her belly. "Your mama's life is a complete disaster right now, but I promise you this. Whatever happens, you're going to be loved. So loved." The baby kicked again. 7 times in quick succession. Vivian counted each one. Her only certainty in a world that had become unrecognizable. The DNA test took 3 days to process. 3 days of waiting. 3 days of hope and terror battling inside Vivian's chest. 3 days of Dr. Holloway visiting her room and telling her stories about Isabella, about the little girl she might have been. "You love these red rain boots with frogs on them," he told her one evening, sitting beside her bed. "You wore them everywhere. Beach, playground, birthday parties. Emma, your mother, she tried to make you wear regular shoes, but you would throw these tiny tantrums until she gave in." Vivian tried to imagine it. A little girl in red rain boots, throwing tantrums, being loved. She could not picture herself as that child. "I do not remember any of it," she admitted. "I did not expect you to. You're only 5. But I remember, and I want you to know who you were, who you might have been, before everything fell apart. Tell me about my mother." The words slipped out before Vivian could stop them. The real her, before the illness. Lawrence's face softened with old grief and older love. Emma was an artist. She painted murals, dreamed of teaching, saw beauty in everything. When you were born, she was so happy. She used to sing to you every night. Lavender lullabies, she called them. She would rub lavender lotion on your arms and sing until you fell asleep. Vivian went very still. Lavender. Yes. Why? I have this memory. A fragment. A woman singing. The smell of lavender. I always thought I made it up. Lawrence's eyes filled with tears. You did not make it up, Vivian. That was Emma. That was your mother. The realization hit Vivian like a physical blow. Somewhere deep inside her, buried under 24 years of foster homes and loneliness and self-sufficiency, was a memory of being loved. What happened to her? Vivian asked. Why did she take me? Lawrence took a deep breath. Postpartum psychosis. It is a severe mental illness that can develop after childbirth. Emma started having delusions, paranoid thoughts. She became convinced that people were trying to hurt you, that I was part of some conspiracy to take you away from her. He paused, pain clear in his voice. I tried to get her help, but back then, we did not understand how serious it was. One morning, I woke up and you were both gone. She left a note saying she was protecting you, that she would bring you back when it was safe. But she died instead. Yes, the car accident was ruled a single vehicle. No other factors. She just drove off the road. Maybe she fell asleep. Maybe the psychosis made her see something that was not there. We will never know. And I was not in the car. No. The police think she left you somewhere hours before the accident. Maybe with a stranger she trusted in her delusional state. Maybe at a church or fire station. You were found 3 days later, wandering alone in a park in Billings. You could not, or would not tell anyone your name. Vivian processed this. Her entire origin story, rewritten in a single conversation. I do not remember. She said, finally, I should remember, but I do not. Maybe that is a mercy. Lawrence said gently, you do not remember the worst parts. But I also do not remember the good parts. I do not remember you. I do not remember her. I do not remember being loved. You were loved. Lawrence's voice cracked. So deeply loved. Emma and I, before the illness, we were happy. You were our whole world. Until I was not. You always were. Even when you were gone. Especially when you were gone. When Dr. Holloway arrived on the third day with an envelope in his hands, Vivian knew immediately. His face was pale. His hands were trembling. He sat down across from her and could not seem to find words. Just tell me, she said. He opened the envelope. Read the contents. And then he started crying. Not quiet tears. Deep, racking sobs that seemed to come from somewhere ancient and long buried. 24 years of grief, releasing all at once. Vivian, his voice was barely audible. It is you. 99.99% match. You are my daughter. You are Isabella. The room tilted. Vivian gripped the armrest of her hospital bed, trying to anchor herself to something solid. Say that again. You are my daughter. I found you. After 24 years, I finally found you. Vivian stared at him. At this man who was suddenly her father. At this stranger who had been searching for her while she grew up alone, while she aged out of foster care 18, while she put herself through college, while she married Julian, while she nearly died. Something cracked open inside her, and what came out was rage. I had a father this whole time. Her voice rose, sharp and broken. Where were you? Lawrence flinched like she had struck him, looking in all the wrong places. Your mother used fake names when she ran. By the time we found her body, the trail was cold. You had been placed under a different name. Jane Doe turned Morgan turned Reyes when you married. I searched everywhere. I was never adopted. Vivian's voice was trembling now. I aged out. I lived in 6 different foster homes. I had nothing. Nobody. I know. I am so sorry. The system failed you. I failed you. Yes, you did. The words hung in the air. Harsh. True. Unforgettable. Lawrence did not defend himself. He did not make excuses. He just sat there, tears streaming down his face, accepting her anger because he knew she had earned it. I searched for 15 years. He said quietly. Private investigators. Every database. Every lead. I never stopped looking. But the trail was dead. I thought you were dead. I was not dead. I was right here, growing up alone, wondering why nobody wanted me. I wanted you. God, Isabella. Vivian, I wanted you every single day. Do not call me that. She snapped. Do not call me Isabella. My name is Vivian. I do not know anyone named Caroline. I know. He whispered. I am sorry. Old habit. My name is Vivian. I am not that little girl in your photographs. I am someone else. Someone you do not know. Then let me know you. Please. I have waited 24 years. I can wait longer if you need time. But please, let me try. Vivian wanted to refuse. Wanted to push him away. To protect herself from more disappointment, more abandonment, more pain. But she was so tired of being alone. My baby needs a grandfather, she said finally. But I need time to process having a father. Take all the time you need. I am not going anywhere. Can you actually promise that? Because everyone leaves. Everyone always leaves. Lawrence reached out and took her hand. His grip was warm and steady. I spent 24 years looking for you. I am not leaving now that I have finally found you. Even if you never call me Dad. Even if you never forgive me. I am staying. I am here. Vivian looked at their hands intertwined. Her father's hand. After 24 years, she had a father. She did not know what to feel. Relief, anger, grief, joy. Everything crashed through her at once. A tsunami of emotion that left her gasping. I do not know how to do this. She admitted. I do not know how to have a father. Neither do I, Lawrence said. I do not know how to be a father to a grown woman. So we will figure out together. If you will let me. The baby kicked. Hard. 7 times. Vivian counted each one. Then she nodded. Okay, she said. We will figure out together. Now I want you to pause for a moment. Can you imagine discovering that the surgeon rebuilding your face is actually your biological father? The father who spent 24 years searching for you. The father you never knew existed. This is why I love sharing these stories with you. Because life is stranger and more beautiful than any fiction we could invent. If you're feeling the emotion of this moment, hit that like button right now. And drop a comment telling me how you would react if you discovered a family member you never knew existed. I read every single comment, and I love hearing your thoughts. Also, if you're watching this and you have not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? We are building something special here. A community of people who believe in hope, in resilience, in second chances. Hit that subscribe button and join the family. Now let us continue, because Vivian's story is far from over. Julian is still out there. The trial is coming, and there is so much more healing left to do. The days that follow were a blur of bandage changes, physical therapy, and difficult conversations. Vivian learned to navigate her new reality one painful step at a time. She had a father who visited every day, bringing her meals from real restaurants because he refused to let her eat hospital food. She had a best friend who slept in the chair beside her bed more nights than not. She had a daughter growing inside her, kicking constantly, reminding her that survival was not optional. And she had a husband who was still out there somewhere, hiding, running, thinking he had gotten away with destroying her. Detective Langford returned a week after the DNA revelation with a thick folder and a grim expression. Mrs. Reyes. She paused. Or should I say Ms. Holloway now? Vivian shook her head. I am still figuring that out. Just call me Vivian. Fair enough. Detective Langford sat down and opened her folder. We have been digging into your husband's activities. What we found is extensive. I already know about the gambling, the affair, the insurance policy. There is more. Of course there is. Vivian laughed bitterly. Why would there only be one betrayal when you can have a dozen? Detective Langford did not smile. Julian was not just gambling for himself. He was embezzling from his own company. As CEO, he had access to accounts that should have been monitored, but were not. Over the past 3 years, he funneled approximately $8 million into offshore accounts. $8 million. Most of it is gone. Lost to bad investments, gambling debts, and a lifestyle he kept completely hidden from you. He had a second apartment downtown. A car you never knew about. Credit cards and names you have never heard. Vivian felt sick. I was married to a stranger. You were married to a con man. A very good one. He fooled his board directors, his investors, his colleagues. You are not the only victim here. But I am the one with acid burns on my face. Yes, Detective Langford's voice softened. You are the one he tried to kill. There was a long silence. Finally, Vivian asked a question that had been burning in her mind for days. Where is he? We do not know yet, but we are getting closer. He used a fake passport to cross into Mexico, but he made a mistake. He used a credit card at a motel outside Tijuana. We have contacted Mexican authorities. It is only a matter of time, and when you find him, he will be extradited back here to face charges. Attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, embezzlement, fraud, identity theft. The list is long, and the sentences are longer. Good. Vivian's voice was cold. I want him to spend the rest of his life in prison. I want him to grow old in a cell, knowing that I survived, knowing that his daughter will never know his name. Detective Langford nodded. That is exactly what we are working toward. After the detective left, Lawrence appeared in the doorway. He had been waiting in the hall, giving Vivian privacy for the conversation. How are you holding up? I found out my husband stole $8 million and had a secret apartment. So about as well as you would expect. Lawrence sat down beside her bed. Can I tell you something my father told me when I was young? Sure. He said that the measure of a person is not what happens to them. It is what they do after. Bad things happen to everyone. But how you respond, that is who you really are. Vivian looked at her bandaged hands. And who am I? You are a survivor. You are about to be a mother. And you are my daughter. That is who you are. The words settled into Vivian's chest like warm water filling an empty vessel. She was not used to being claimed, not used to belonging to someone. I still do not know how to have a father, she admitted, and I still do not know how to be a father to an adult woman. But I am learning. Lawrence smiled. I researched it online. There are articles about reconnecting with estranged children. I read all of them. Vivian laughed. It hurt her face, but she did not care. You research being my father. I research everything. I am a surgeon. It is what we do. What do the articles say? Be patient. Listen more than you talk. Do not try to make up for lost time all at once. Accept that the relationship will be different from what you imagined. Are you following the advice? I am trying. Some of it is harder than it sounds. Like what? Like not calling you Isabella. Like not hugging you every time I see you. Like accepting that you might never see me as a real father. Just a man who happened to share your DNA. Vivian was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised them both. I do not know what a real father looks like. I never had one. But you are here. Every day. You did not have to be, but you are. That means something. It means everything. Lawrence said quietly. It means absolutely everything. 2 weeks later, Detective Langford called with the news they had been waiting for. We found him. Vivian's heart stopped. Where? A motel in Ensenada, Mexico. He was using a fake name, but the owner recognized him from the news coverage. Mexican police took him into custody this morning. He is being extradited as we speak. When will he be back? 48 hours. The arraignment is scheduled for Friday. Vivian gripped the phone so tightly her knuckles went white. I want to be there. Are you sure? You are still recovering. Your face is still bandaged. I am sure. I want him to see me. I want him to know that I am still here. All right, I will make the arrangements. When Vivian told Lawrence, his face went through several emotions. Concern, pride, fear, determination. I am coming with you, he said. You do not have to. I know I do not have to. I want to. You should not have to face him alone. Tessa appeared in the doorway. She had been listening from the hallway. Neither should you face him with just your father. I am coming too. Vivian looked at these two people. Her father, her best friend, the family she had found in the wreckage of her old life. Thank you, she whispered. Both of you. The arraignment was held in a crowded courtroom on a Friday morning. Vivian wore a simple black dress that Tessa had helped her pick out. Her face was still bandaged, but she had asked the nurses to remove the worst of it. She wanted Julian to see what he had done. She wanted the whole world to see. Lawrence sat on one side of her. Tessa sat on the other. They held her hands as the courtroom filled with reporters, spectators, and legal professionals. Then the door opened, and Julian was let in. He wore an orange jumpsuit. His hair was longer than she remembered, unkempt and greasy. He had lost weight, but his eyes were the same. Cold, calculating, empty. When he saw Vivian, something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or annoyance that his plan had failed so completely. Then he smiled. It was a small smile, almost imperceptible, like they were sharing a private joke, like he still had some power over her. Vivian stared back without expression. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her flinch. The judge entered, and everyone rose. The charges were read aloud. Attempted murder in the first degree. Assault with a deadly weapon causing great bodily harm. Aggravated assault on a pregnant woman. Embezzlement. Fraud. Identity theft. Forgery. The list went on and on. Each charge another nail in Julian's coffin. How does a defendant plead? Julian's lawyer stood. Not guilty, Your Honor. My client maintains that this was a moment of temporary insanity brought on by extreme financial stress. Vivian felt rage rising in her chest. Temporary insanity, as if planning to murder your pregnant wife for insurance money was just a bad day. The prosecutor rose. A tall woman named District Attorney Amelia Chun with sharp eyes and a reputation for destroying defendants who underestimated her. Your Honor, the evidence clearly shows premeditation. The defendant purchased industrial-strength sodium hydroxide 3 weeks before the attack. He researched prison sentences for acid attacks multiple times. He took out a $2 million life insurance policy on his wife 6 weeks before attempting to murder her. This was not temporary insanity. This was calculated, deliberate attempted murder. The judge set bail at $10 million, which Julian could not possibly pay. He would remain in custody until trial. As he was let out of the courtroom, Julian turned and looked at Vivian one last time. His smile was gone. In its place was something colder. Hatred, maybe, or just the realization that he had lost everything. Vivian did not look away. She held his gaze until he disappeared through the door. Then she let out a breath she had been holding for weeks. "It is over," Tessa whispered. "The first part, at least." "No," Vivian said. "It is just beginning. But now he knows. Now he knows that I am still here. And I am not going anywhere." The months that followed were a marathon of surgeries and healing. Lawrence performed 4 more procedures on Vivian's face. Each one rebuilt a little more of what Julian had destroyed. Skin graft from her thigh to reconstruct her cheeks. Cartilage from her rib to rebuild her nose. Hours upon hours of meticulous work, suture by suture, cell by cell. "This is the most important work I have ever done," Lawrence told her before the 3rd surgery. "Not because you are my patient, because you are my daughter. What if it does not work? What if I still look like a monster? You could never look like a monster, and it will work. I promise you that." Between surgeries, Vivian moved into Lawrence's house. It was strange at first, living in the home where she had once been a child, walking past a room that had been kept exactly as she left it 24 years ago, seeing her old toys, her old books, her old clothes frozen in time. The red rain boots were still on the dresser, bright red, with little green frogs on them. Vivian picked them up and turned them over in her hands, tried to feel some connection to the little girl who had loved them. She felt nothing, just smooth rubber and distant memory. "I wish I remembered," she told Lawrence one evening, standing in that frozen childhood bedroom. "I wish I could feel what you feel when you look at these things. Maybe you will someday, or maybe you will make new memories instead. Either way, you are here now. That is what matters." Vivian set down the boots and turned to face him. "Can I ask you something? Anything? Did you ever give up? In all those years of searching, did you ever think about just letting go?" Lawrence was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that broke Vivian's heart and healed it at the same time. "Every day, every single day, I thought about giving up. It would have been easier, less painful. I could have closed your bedroom door and moved on with my life." He paused, his voice thick with emotion. "But then I would imagine you out there somewhere, alive, wondering why no one was looking for you. And I could not stop. I could not leave you alone in the world, even if I never found you." Vivian felt tears streaming down her face. They burned in her healing scars, but she did not wipe them away. "I was alone in the world," she whispered. "For 24 years, I was completely alone. I know, and I am so sorry. I failed you. You did not fail me. You never stopped looking. That is not failure. That is love." It was the first time she had used that word with him. Love. It hung in the air between them, fragile and new and terrifying. Lawrence's eyes filled with tears. "I do love you. I know I do not have the right to say that yet. I know I have not earned it. But I love you. I have loved you since the moment you were born, and I never stopped." Vivian did not know what to say. She had never been told that before. Not by foster parents who cycled through her life. Not by Julian, who had said the words but never meant them. Not by anyone. So she did the only thing that felt right. She hugged him. It was awkward at first. She did not know where to put her arms. He held her like she might break. But then something shifted and it became real. A father holding his daughter. A daughter letting herself be held. 24 years of distance closed in a single moment. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were crying. "I do not know how to be your daughter," Vivian said, "but I want to learn. That is all I have ever wanted." Lawrence replied, "That is more than enough. Now I need to pause here and share something with you. This moment, this reunion between a father and daughter separated by tragedy, this is why stories matter, because they remind us that it is never too late. It is never too late to find family. It is never too late to heal. It is never too late to start over. If this story is touching your heart, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me what part has resonated with you most. Was it Vivian's survival? Her father's decades of searching? The moment they finally embraced? I read every single comment, and your stories inspire me just as much as these videos inspire you. And if you have not already, please hit that share button. Send this video to someone who needs to hear that hope exists, that second chances are real, that family can be found in the most unexpected places. Now, let us continue, because the trial is coming, and Vivian is about to face Julian one more time. The trial began on a cold January morning. Vivian had spent weeks preparing with District Attorney Chun. They had gone over every detail, practiced every question, anticipated every attack the defense might throw at her. They are going to try to paint you as controlling. Chun warned her. They are going to say you drove him to it, that you were unstable, that you push him past his breaking point. How do I respond? Tell the truth. Stay calm. Do not let them see you cry. Juries respect strength. What if I cannot be strong? Then fake it. Chen's voice softened. You survived an acid attack while pregnant. You crawled to that door when you were dying. If you can do that, you can handle a cross-examination. On the morning of the trial, Vivian dressed carefully. A navy blue dress. No jewelry. No makeup to cover her scars, which had healed significantly, but would never fully disappear. She wanted the jury to see what Julian had done. Lawrence drove her to the courthouse. Tessa met them at the entrance. Together, the three of them walked through a gauntlet of reporters and cameras. Ms. Holloway, how are you feeling? Ms. Holloway, do you think he will be convicted? Ms. Holloway, what do you want people to know? Vivian stopped and turned to face the cameras. The reporters went quiet, waiting. I want people to know that I am not a victim, she said, her voice clear and steady. I am a survivor. And today, my husband is going to learn what happens when you underestimate a survivor. Then she turned and walked into the courthouse, head high, shoulders back, ready for war. The prosecution presented their case methodically and devastatingly. DHN laid out the evidence piece by piece. The chemical purchased 3 weeks before the attack. The internet searches about acid attacks and prison sentences. The life insurance policy taken out 6 weeks before the assault. The affair with Priya Sharma. The embezzlement from his own company. The second apartment. The hidden cars. The web of lies that Julian had woven around his entire life. This was not a crime of passion. Chun told the jury in her opening statement. This was an execution attempt. Julian Reyes planned to murder his pregnant wife for money. When she survived, he fled the country. That is not the behavior of a man who snapped under pressure. That is the behavior of a calculated predator. Julian's defense attorney, Robert Morrison, painted a different picture. He talked about stress, about financial pressure, about a marriage that was failing. He suggested that Vivian had been controlling, demanding, difficult to live with. Julian Reyes is not a monster. Morrison insisted. He is a man who made terrible choices under unimaginable pressure. He needs help, not condemnation. Vivian listened to the defense's arguments with a cold fury burning in her chest. Unimaginable pressure. As if owing money justified throwing acid on your pregnant wife's face. Witness after witness took the stand. Mrs. Delacroix, the neighbor who had found Vivian on her porch, described the horror of that night. The screaming, the smell of burning flesh, the way Vivian had kept whispering about her baby even as her face dissolved. Paramedic Santos described Vivian's injuries in clinical detail, the extent of the burns, the risk of permanent blindness, the miracle that her eyes had been spared. Detective Langford presented the evidence from Julian's laptop, the gambling websites, the searches about acid attacks, the messages to Priya Sharma, filled with lies about Vivian. Priya Sharma herself took the stand, her voice shaking but determined. He told me she was unstable. Priya testified. He said she threatened to hurt herself if he ever left. He showed me texts that he claimed were from her. They were vicious, controlling, frightening. Were those texts real? DHN asked. No. I later learned he fabricated them. Used a text spoofing app. He wanted me to hate her, so I would not question him. Morrison cross-examined aggressively. Miss Sharma, you were having an affair with a married man. Is it possible you are lying now to absolve yourself of guilt? Priya met his eyes steadily. I was having an affair. That is true. I am guilty of that. But I did not try to kill anyone. Julian did. Finally, it was Vivian's turn. She walked to the witness stand slowly, aware of every eye in the courtroom. She placed her hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. Then she sat down and looked directly at the jury. Not at Julian. Never at Julian. Ms. Holloway. D.H. and began. Please tell the jury about October 15th of last year, the night you were attacked. Vivian took a breath. I came home from parent-teacher conferences around 6:30. I was 7 months pregnant, tired, looking forward to putting my feet up. Julian had texted me earlier saying there was champagne waiting. What happened when you entered your home? The house was dark. I called Julian's name. There was no answer. I reached for the light switch. Vivian paused. The memory was sharp, too sharp, like broken glass in her mind. That is, when he threw the liquid at my face. The courtroom was absolutely silent. Did you recognize what was in the bottle? No. I thought it was water at first. Then the burning started. Can you describe the burning? Vivian's voice stayed steady, but her hands were shaking. It felt like my face was on fire, like someone was holding a blowtorch to my skin. I could feel my flesh bubbling. I could smell it. I fell to my knees. What did Julian say? He said I ruined everything, that I could not leave things alone, that I had to ask questions. Did he help you? Vivian laughed. It was a broken, bitter sound. No, he watched me fall. Then he walked past me, got in his car, and drove away. He left me to die on the floor of our home. D.H. and showed the jury photographs of Vivian's injuries from that night. Graphic, horrifying images that made several jurors cover their mouths. Ms. Holloway, those are difficult images to look at. How did you survive? I crawled, Vivian said. I crawled to the front door. I needed help. I needed to save my baby. Your baby. I was 7 months pregnant. I am a mother. Mothers do not give up. Then Morrison stood for cross-examination, and Vivian felt her entire body tense. Ms. Holloway, you admit you confronted my client about his finances. You were angry, were you not? I was concerned. I found charges on our credit card that I did not recognize. So you argued with him. We had a discussion. A heated discussion. I was worried about our financial situation. Is it not true that you threatened to leave him? Yes. After I discovered the affair. Morrison leaned forward. So you threatened his life as he knew it. His home. His child. His future. Vivian met his eyes without flinching. I threatened to leave a marriage that was built on lies. That is not the same as throwing acid on someone's face. But you pushed him. You cornered him. You made him feel trapped. Nothing I did made him try to murder me. That was his choice. Morrison changed tactics. Ms. Holloway, you are suing my client for damages. Are you not? Yes. For medical expenses and pain and suffering. So you have a financial incentive to see him convicted. I have a personal incentive to see him in prison. So he never does this to anyone else. Morrison tried a different angle. You recently discovered that your surgeon is actually your biological father. A wealthy plastic surgeon. Is it not convenient that you suddenly have access to his resources? D.H. objected. Relevance. The judge sustained. Morrison pressed on. Ms. Holloway, according to your medical records, you experienced depression during your pregnancy. You were prescribed medication. Brief prenatal depression. Very common. Is it not possible you were unstable? That my client was frightened of your mental state? Vivian had had enough. She leaned forward and looked directly at Julian for the first time since entering the courtroom. I was 7 months pregnant, she said, her voice cutting through the courtroom like a blade. I weighed 145 pounds. Julian is 6'2" and 210 pounds. If he felt threatened by me asking questions about money, he could have left. He could have gotten therapy. He could have done anything except try to burn my face off. She held Julian's gaze, watching his mask slip, watching the cold fury rise in his eyes. He planned this for weeks. She continued. He bought the chemicals. He researched how to avoid prison. He took out a life insurance policy, so he could profit from my death. That is not temporary insanity. That is attempted murder. The jury was riveted. Morrison had no more questions. As Vivian stepped down from the witness stand, she felt something release in her chest. She had faced him. She had told her truth. Whatever happened next, she had not let him win. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. For hours of waiting. for hours of pacing, for hours of imagining the worst. Then the bailiff announced that they had reached a verdict, and everyone filed back into the courtroom. Vivian sat between Lawrence and Tessa, gripping both their hands so tightly her knuckles went white. The jury foreman stood, on the charge of attempted murder, in the first degree. How do you find? Guilty. Vivian felt the word wash over her like warm water. On the charge of assault with a deadly weapon causing great bodily harm. How do you find? Guilty. On the charge of aggravated assault on a pregnant woman. Guilty. On the charges of embezzlement, fraud, identity theft, and forgery. Guilty on all counts. Julian showed no emotion. He stared straight ahead as the verdicts were read, his face a mask of nothing. But Vivian saw his hands clenching beneath the table. She saw the slight tremor in his jaw. He had lost. Completely. Utterly. Forever. Sentencing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. When that day came, the judge read from prepared remarks, his voice heavy with disgust. Mr. Reyes, you are not a victim of circumstance. You are a predator who planned to murder your pregnant wife for money. You researched your crime. You purchased your weapon. You created a false narrative to justify your actions. And when your plan failed, you fled the country, leaving your wife and unborn child to suffer the consequences of your violence. The judge paused, looking directly at Julian. You will spend the rest of your productive life in prison, thinking about the moment you chose violence over humanity. I sentence you to 45 years to life. You will be 91 years old before you are eligible for parole. The gavel fell. It was over. Vivian walked out of the courtroom into a cold January afternoon. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Reporters shouted questions, but she did not hear them. She stopped on the courthouse steps and looked up at the sky. I did it, she whispered. We did it, baby girl. He is never going to hurt us again. Her daughter kicked in response. 7 strong kicks against Vivian's ribs. She was 8 months pregnant now. The baby would come soon, and when she did, she would enter a world where her father was in prison and her mother was free. That was the best gift Vivian could give her. 3 weeks after the verdict, Vivian went into labor. It was 2 a.m. when the contractions started, strong and steady, unmistakable in their intention. Lawrence drove her to the hospital, his hand steady on the wheel even though his eyes were bright with nervous excitement. You're going to be fine, he said. Everything is going to be perfect. You sound more nervous than I am. I am about to become a grandfather. I am allowed to be nervous. Tessa met them at the hospital entrance, breathless and tearful. I cannot believe this is happening, she said, grabbing Vivian's hand. You are going to be a mom. I know. It is terrifying. No, it is wonderful. The labor was fast. 4 hours of contractions, of pushing, of pain that somehow felt different from the acid, cleaner, more purposeful. And then, at 6:17 in the morning, a cry filled the room. Sharp, indignant, absolutely perfect. It is a girl, the doctor announced. Healthy and beautiful. They placed the baby on Vivian's chest. She was tiny and red and furious at the world, screaming her displeasure at being removed from her comfortable home. Vivian started crying, not from pain, from something much bigger than pain. Hi, baby, she whispered. I am your mama, and no one is ever going to hurt you. I promise you that. Lawrence stood beside the bed, tears streaming down his face. He reached out with trembling fingers and touched his granddaughter's tiny hand. The baby's fingers curled around his thumb, impossibly small. Hello, little one, he said, his voice breaking. I am your grandfather, and I already love you more than you can possibly know. Tessa was crying too. Everyone was crying. The nurse was crying. It was a room full of tears and joy and overwhelming relief. What are you going to name her? Tessa asked. Vivian had known for months. She had known since the moment she learned she was having a girl. Isabella, she said. Isabella Hope. After the little girl I used to be. And Hope, because that is what she represents. Hope for the future. Hope for healing. Hope for everything good that is still possible. Isabella Hope opened her eyes and looked up at her mother. Her gaze was unfocused, newborn, searching. But somehow it felt like recognition, like she already knew who Vivian was. Welcome to the world, Isabella. Vivian whispered, "It is not always kind, but I promise you there is so much beauty, so much love, so much worth fighting for." The baby made a soft sound and snuggled closer. And for the first time in months, Vivian felt completely at peace. 2 years passed. They were good years. Hard years. Healing years. Vivian returned to teaching 8 months after Isabella was born. Her students did not care about her scars. They cared about whether she was nice, whether she made learning fun, whether she believed in them. On her first day back, a boy named Marcus raised his hand. "Ms. Holloway, what happened to your face?" The classroom went silent. The teaching assistant tensed, ready to intervene. But Vivian just smiled. "Someone hurt me very badly," she said calmly. "But I healed, and I am still here." Marcus considered this. "My abuela says scars mean you are brave. Your abuela is very wise." The other students nodded, satisfied with this answer. Then they went back to their math problems, and life continued. Vivian started speaking at domestic violence conferences, shelters, schools, anywhere people would listen. She told her story over and over, not because she enjoyed reliving it, but because she knew it could help someone else. "If you are in an abusive relationship," she would say, standing in front of crowds that grew larger with each event, "please hear me. Abuse does not start with acid. It starts with small things. Isolation, control, making you feel like you are crazy. If someone makes you feel small, if someone makes you doubt yourself, if someone makes you afraid, that is abuse. And you deserve better." She founded the Isabella Hope Foundation, a domestic violence resource center that provided emergency housing, legal aid, counseling, and job training. Funded by her settlement from Julian's insurance company and donations from around the country, it helped over 300 women in its first year. When they are ready to leave, she told reporters at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, "We will be here. When they need a lawyer, we will find one. When they need a job, we will help them get one. No one should have to survive alone." Lawrence retired from surgery to focus on being a grandfather. He spent his days reading to Isabella Hope, building block towers, pushing her on the swings at the park. He had missed 24 years of Vivian's life. He was determined not to miss a single moment of his granddaughters. Isabella Hope grew into a hurricane of energy and laughter. She had Vivian's eyes and Lawrence's stubbornness. She loved books and music, and, true to family tradition, a pair of red rain boots with little green frogs on them. "Mama," she said one morning, toddling into the kitchen in those boots. "Mama, look, froggy boots. I see your boots, baby." Vivian scooped her up and kissed her cheek. "They are perfect. Froggy boots, best boots. They really are." Tessa came over for dinner every Sunday. The 4 of them would sit around the table, eating Lawrence's cooking, laughing at Isabella's antics, talking about everything and nothing. Family dinners. The kind Vivian had never had growing up. One evening, after Isabella was in bed and Tessa had gone home, Vivian and Lawrence sat on the back porch with glasses of wine. "I got a call today," Lawrence said, "from the state legislature." "What did they want?" "They want to name a law after you. Increased penalties for acid attacks. Mandatory minimum sentences. They want to call it Vivian's Law." Vivian was quiet for a moment. The stars were bright overhead. The air smelled like jasmine from the garden she had planted last spring. "I never wanted to be famous for what happened to me," she said finally. "You are not famous for what happened to you," Lawrence replied. "You are famous for what you did after." Vivian's Law was passed 6 months later. It increased sentences for acid attacks by 20 years and mandated psychological treatment for perpetrators. It was the first law of its kind in the state. Julian, rotting in his prison cell, would hate knowing that his crime had led to harsher punishments for people like him. Good. On Isabella Hope's 2nd birthday, they threw a party. 20 kids from the neighborhood, Isabella's daycare friends, Vivian's students, Lawrence's former colleagues. Tessa, of course, arriving with 3 different cakes because she could not decide which one was best. The backyard was filled with balloons and laughter and the chaos of too many toddlers in one place. Isabella wore a princess dress and her red rain boots. She blew out her candles with help from Vivian, making a wish that probably involved more cake. "Make a wish, baby girl," Vivian whispered. Isabella closed her eyes tight, concentrating hard. Then she opened them and grinned. More cake. Vivian laughed. That is a very good wish. After the party, after the guests had left and Isabella was asleep in her bed, Vivian stood in the nursery, watching her daughter breathe. She thought about how far she had come. From that terrible October night to this moment. From crawling across her own foyer with acid eating her face to standing here, whole and healed and surrounded by people who loved her. She was not the same person. She would never be that person again. But she was better, stronger, more herself than she had ever been. She touched her scars gently. They had become familiar now, part of her landscape rather than all of it. Thank you, she whispered to them, for reminding me I am a survivor. Then she went to find her father, who was cleaning up the kitchen and humming one of Isabella's favorite songs. Dad. The word slipped out naturally. She had not planned it. It just happened. Lawrence turned around, his eyes wide. What did you just call me? Vivian smiled. I called you Dad. Is that okay? Lawrence's face crumpled into something between laughter and tears. Is that okay? He repeated. Vivian, that is the only thing I wanted to hear for 26 years. He pulled her into a hug. She let him, and for a long moment, they just stood there in the kitchen, father and daughter, finally home. I love you, Dad, Vivian said. I love you too, sweetheart, more than you will ever know. The acid had taken Vivian's face, but she had taken back everything else. Her identity, her family, her purpose, her peace. Julian was in prison, forgotten and alone. His name was synonymous with cruelty. Vivian was surrounded by people who loved her, making a difference every single day. Her name was synonymous with survival. She had won. Completely. Absolutely. Finally. And as she fell asleep that night, her daughter safe in the next room, her father down the hall, her best friend just a phone call away, her last thought was simple. I am not what happened to me. I am what I chose to become after. Survivor, mother, daughter, advocate, fighter, Vivian Holloway, alive, thriving, free. Vivian's story reminds us of something we all need to remember. We are stronger than we think. Survival is not about avoiding pain. It is about finding light on the other side of darkness. If this story moved you, I want to know. Drop a comment telling me what part resonated most. Was it Vivian's courage in facing Julian? The father-daughter reunion after 24 years? The moment she first held Isabella Hope? Or maybe something else entirely? Your thoughts matter to me. I read every single comment, and your stories of resilience inspire me just as much as these videos inspire you. If you know someone who needs to hear this message, someone who is struggling, someone who feels alone, someone who needs to remember that hope exists, please share this video with them. Sometimes a story is exactly what someone needs to take their next brave step. Hit that like button if you believe in second chances. Subscribe if you want more stories of survival, hope, and the incredible resilience of the human spirit. And remember, always remember, you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become after. I will see you in the next story.